that was. It's gonna come out because somebody gonna drop a dime on her. Like the nigga in Belly. They don't like that. They gonna drop a dime on her or him. But congrats, Caitlin Clark.
Okay, there's really not much I can say after that, but I hope that they actually don't release the name, because we've seen how certain fans, and I'm not even gonna say fans, I'll say trolls, that's what Caitlin Clark said, taking things way too seriously. So if they do release that name and show that, you know, Caitlin Clark got snubbed for a unanimous vote, they're gonna be going crazy on whoever that person is. So let's actually keep that in the vault.
What's the new shit? What's the new slogan?
Like Caitlin Clark was just calling them trolls.
No, the new slogan: stand on business. Sorry, stand on it. Now don't get scared. Don't want to hide behind the vote. Stand on your.
Stand on that
stand
business.
on your vote, nigga. This ain't the presidency. Niggas ain't asking if you vote for Kamala or Trump, nigga. Stand on your business, nigga. The fuck is you talking about? I vote. Look, if I voted for Angel Reese, I know I'm a different type of animal. Fuck out of there. I voted for Angel Reese. What's good? She cute. She tall, she sleek, baby hair, rebounds, points, all that. Whatever. Fuck out of here. I wouldn't have voted for Angel Reese. I love her though. She would have came in second. Absolutely.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Caitlin Clark deserves it, but I don't know about staying on that business. Okay.
Now you want to backtrack.
I'm not backtracking. I just want to stand on that business. That's just a lot. So, but shout out to Caitlin Clark because she deserved it.
And the trolls.
It's not even the.
Crazy?
It's not even the comments. Like, people are physically weird. Like, that is a whole nother thing.
Niggas laugh at you. So you saying this would get physical?
Yes, like people have been like death threats. Like when it gets to like in-person safety.
Let's stop right there.
Okay.
Death threat is not physical.
But it can become physical. When things can become physical, that's when I just think people have taken things way too far. Like, and that's when I think that it's.
And I'm asking this question, just your opinion. If that name comes out and they find out who it is, they gonna pop on her, like, oh, see, and pop on her, like, oh, you voted for Angel Reese? Like that.
You think it's a joke, but yes, people are crazy.
You know what it is? You know what it is? PN White. See, and look, I agree with you. When I say agree with you, not agree with you, I agree that you feel like that because I dig that it's people like that.
I understand you, but I don't hear you.
No, I hear you 100. No, you know what it is? I gotta change my way of thinking because it's just a different time. Like,
yeah,
you know, I seen nigga D.L. Hughley years ago, maybe like 8-9 years ago, talking about internet bullying. And I didn't know it was that serious till probably about 4 or 5 years ago, internet bullying, because he used to just be like, you know, my nephew, he had a joke. He said, my nephew told me he getting bullied on the internet. Turn the phone off, nigga. The whole shit is stopped. Turn the computer off. Ain't no more bullying. And I know we're in a different time now, and I can't say that. Shit is crazy. You're not allowed to say that anymore, but my bad. I need to be more sensitive. But yeah, he said turn the phone off. You know what I'm saying? These two niggas right here grew up with me in Harlem. A death threat was a real death threat. It wasn't a nigga in their mother basement in Nebraska talking about, I'm gonna come kill you. I told the nigga I'm gonna come kill. Nah, nigga had a hoodie. You know what I'm saying, bro? You live in Killer Columbus. Nigga tell you they gonna kill you. You have to look around the corner like. You run out your house like nigga and boys in Minister Society when they went to go get through Kane dirty. A real death threat is a death threat. You might think it's a death threat, and I'm not saying don't take death threats on the internet seriously. That's not what I'm saying. But it wasn't like a nigga, them shits Malcolm X was getting on his phone for. Kill you, man. Kill you, nigga. Molotov cocktail. So I just gotta be more sensitive, me personally, and take it more seriously because I can't get mad or insensitive because we were raised in a different time and things change because things always change. So I understand
just
coming from
real quick to add to that though, but like it, like, and I get what you're saying. You're like what people are saying on the internet, but like example, like the Connecticut Sun, like they got followed like after Kennedy Carter when they said injured Caitlin Clark. So it's like, and I know you're hearing followed, and you're like that doesn't mean anything, but for
you know how many times I've been followed?
Yeah, me too. Unfortunately, things happen. So I'm just saying, like, some people just take these things a little too serious. And I don't think things are that serious, truly. That's why I'm the type of person who doesn't really get offended. I stay in my own bubble and I let y'all think what y'all are going to think, because y'all are going to think that way regardless. But not everybody thinks like that, especially my generation. Like, a lot of people do get in their feelings a lot more.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but everything you telling me is like bubblegum shit. They got followed. Instead, they follow you in here to work every day. You know what's crazy is that it's so crazy, Mo. The shit that's crazy is that when I look over and talk to Stat, out my peripheral a little bit, I see Nick laughing. Nick is white. Nick over there like, man, that fucking Stat scared. Nick is over there dying in the control booth. See, Nick, that's not fair neither, because Nick is white. But Nick
knows too.
I was just about to say that ain't fair, because Nick, I was about to say Nick like the new jujitsu. See, Nick is one of these niggas. Him and his team was in here the other day. It's like 4 of them niggas. These niggas look like the niggas you might pick on, like, shut up and throw some shit at you. And these niggas is UFC fighters. Like, these niggas, I asked Nick, I say, Nick, you ever got into some shit in the street and had to use your UFC-ness? He said, yeah, once at the movies, they tried to get crazy or they did. But I said, well, what happened? He said, some guys got loud with us and me and my boys, and we just put these niggas in some shit and told them to relax. How you put a nigga in some shit and tell you to relax? And you trying to get out and you can't get out. I would hate to run into the wrong niggas, because you know niggas like to talk shit sometimes, and if you ain't ready to back it up, see, most times, 9 times out of 10, I keep a little something on me. It's not saying a pistol or anything like that, just to get you up off me. Nigga put me in a chicken wing and I can't get out. I say, you got it. I feel like a sucker for like 4 weeks. I don't even know what I would do. Nigga got you in a chicken wing like this. So, nah, you got it. I would be pissed. I'd be pissed, man. When Nick, one day we're going to bring you on the show. We want to hear how that shit went down when y'all got into that little wrestling match with you and your niggas. Pause.
But then again, just before we go, you're referencing, I'm a lady. Like, I'm not going to do no stuff like that. If I have to protect myself, then that's a different type of situation. But
No, Stat, I don't want your Stat. We got your back. I don't want nothing to happen to you, man. Look, man, we all going out for you. Some shit happen to you. We got your back. But we ain't talking about you. We talking about
the voter.
We talking about a voter who made a vote. I already know you think like that. You scared to say who you voting for on TV. We already know what type of time you want. I dig it.
Okay, we got one more topic before we close. So Terrence Crawford revealed he rejected a boxing and MMA deal to fight UFC fighter Conor McGregor. They would have been paid hundreds of millions of dollars, and although McGregor was ready to compete in both sports, Crawford declined. So want to hear you guys' thoughts. What do you guys think of him rejecting the offer, Maurice?
Terrence Crawford has good sense, and I'm with him. You know, I ain't no way. I nigga ain't kicking me in my face. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I was trying to tell you earlier, like, even doing this media stuff, like even some of the stuff I'll be saying, it's just some shit I ain't going for. Nigga not kicking me in my face, you know what I mean? Not even for no money. And I just, you know, he make money, he go in there, he box, he's a champion. But I see he be rolling around with the Sheik dude, you know what I'm saying? And so the Sheik dude probably think like, man, I can go ahead and put a bag in front of his face and he gonna do whatever for it. And so he basically saying like, nah, man, I'm a champion boxer and I'm gonna keep on doing that, and I'll keep on getting paid with you doing that. But we ain't about to be a part of no circus. You ain't about to just watch me, you know, be your high priced pet where you send me in the ring and like let a nigga kick the shit out of me, and niggas like, you know what I'm saying? It ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? And just so one thing I was telling you earlier, even about this media stuff, and I know what we getting off topic. Sometimes I don't even know how to take this space, because when I say something to somebody, if I'm in a space with you, I mean it, right? And I'm not about to do no eye wrestling, no none of that shit. So don't be looking at me, because I'll be like, what the fuck you looking at? You know what I'm saying? And it'll go somewhere else. Yeah. And so I know I wanted to say that earlier, right. But like this shit be weird sometimes.
Yeah. And look, Mo, you got a job to do. And I learned that before I even started doing this, before I get to Terrence Crawford, is that I seen when Kendrick, and I know we talked about Kendrick on the show already, but when he first started broadcasting on ESPN, he was kind of fresh out the NBA, and he had to talk about former teammates, and niggas just started bringing shit up like, Nigga, you was in my house 2 weeks ago. Now you up here talking about me on ESPN. Fucking. And he like, yo, man, I got a job to do. And he got more comfortable. And you can see his progression. He's a super great analyst now. I'm not saying he didn't start off good, but you can see the actual progression. But you gonna lose friends, bro. You gonna lose friends doing this. Back to.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. Listen, no, you said the right thing, Mo. I dig it. I'm on that type of time. I got a job to do. And 9 times out of 10, what I be trying to explain to people is that, bro, this is not your regular sports show. You gonna hear what niggas is talking about in the barbershop, on the corner, in the gambling spot, in the projects, in urban America. This is how niggas talk. You lucky we don't really get into how you fucking niggas parlays up. We don't even get into that. We don't even get into that. So you trying to tell me that he couldn't have scored the last 3 points so nigga gonna fuck my rent money up. That's what niggas doing? Let me jump in this nigga DM.
Facts.
Niggas is going in niggas DMs talking about, yo, so you couldn't have passed the extra 9 yards? You got something against me, homeboy? So it's personal. We don't even get into that. There be niggas ready to kill you. Listen, I'm be honest with you. I don't speak to the nigga to this day. I ain't gonna say the nigga name. I went to, shout out to my niggas, these my niggas. And you know what? They don't even know this happened. It's gonna be the first time they hearing it. And the nigga that I brought with me, I don't even speak to him no more. Rich Kleiman, which is Kevin Durant's agent. Shout out to Rich Kleiman and Kevin Durant. They had, Boardroom is the name of their company. They had a boardroom party in New York City, maybe 2 years ago now. Yeah, at least about 2 years, 2 summers ago. And I went down there with a couple people, and it was a cool vibe. We chilling. So I introduced one of my niggas, the Rich Kleiman named KD. So he spoke and said, what's up? But it was kind of like a funky 5 pause. And I'm like, that's fucking Kevin Durant, right, nigga? yeah, I know, Flair. So I said, what's the fuck is wrong? The nigga been getting 35 nights in a row. When I want to put my money up on the 6th night and the 7th night, he gets 25. I feel away. You right. Yo, do me a favor. Shoot uptown real quick.
Yeah.
I need you to grab something from me, and I'll meet you up there. I bet. They nigga $100. I ain't seen them since. Embarrassed me about my motherfucking friends with Kevin. They told my nigga fucked your parlay up. The fuck is you talking about? What the fuck is you talking about, nigga? I ain't seen the nigga since. You want give Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant didn't even know. I know, because I know the nigga. I know his vibe. I'm like, what are you pouting about? Nights in a row, this nigga have 30 points. I put my money up. It's like all right, bro. We don't even get into that with y'all niggas. We don't even do that. We could get into whole extra shit with that on this show. We got a whole show on that separately. So yeah, y'all niggas be bugging. But back to Terrence Crawford, real quick before I make my statement. It was only MMA or it was boxing?
MMA and boxing.
Yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't do the boxing. I have no idea. That was an easy payday for Floyd. MMA, what happened?
Probably a joint adult.
It was a 2-fight deal.
Yeah.
2-fight deal. You got to do boxing and MMA.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Niggas is bugging. See, you know what it is? I done seen footage recently, and this was after the Errol Spence fight, of Terrence Crawford choking niggas out in the gym too. I see him wrestling a nigga, had him in the chokehold on top. I said, this nigga, what the fuck they got going on in Nebraska? They wrestling bears and shit out there? Boxing, what the fuck is going on? Because he's had a nigga in some MMA shit, some wild shit. And niggas think because that's what he doing in his own time, that you could do that against a professional. Very smart move not to do the MMA thing. I think that's 100% what most say, because not only kicked in your face, it's moves that you don't know about, that you won't even know you're in. And then when you're trying to tap, your hand can't touch the floor to tap. You can't tap your shoulder, it's not reaching nothing. So you can't even tap out, and you can't talk. So you might die. because she's getting choked out. Very smart. I seen James Toney say he the baddest man, great boxer. I was a huge James Toney fan growing up. One very, very good boxer. Said nobody could beat him in nothing. They can't fuck with James. They can't fuck with James Toney. He talking in third person. They can't fuck with James Toney. He's James Toney. You know what I'm saying? Put him in MMA shit. Wrapped him up in 40 seconds. James Toney, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is 62-2 in boxing. He lost to Roy Jones and he lost another shit by disqualification. He like 60, he got some wild record. Maybe he lost late in the career. He got to be like 64-4, James Toney. 40 seconds, chicken wing. Tap out. Y'all niggas, I ain't know you was gonna do all that. He talk like, y'all motherfuckers crazy. Y'all niggas crazy. This motherfucker choked nigga out. He thought he could beat anybody in anything. And that's a bad motherfucker. Choked his ass out. Don't do it, boxers. Bring them in the boxing room if they gonna do it. Mo said it right. Kicks, not just kicks, elbows, forearms. Imagine a nigga running full speed and throw his knee up to your forehead. Imagine a nigga full speed and with a flying knee if you're a boxer. Come on, my nigga. Y'all,
you don't know how to defend that.
You don't know what to do. You like, yo. And you know what? I heard an MMA nigga say this one time about boxing. He said, see, when it comes to boxing, when y'all niggas get knocked down, y'all get an eight standing 8 count or a 10 count till you out. When a nigga knock us down, they coming right behind the knockdown with one of these flying in the air. We can't get knocked down. There ain't no damn standing 8 count. They right behind us with a forearm, a knee, whatever. So I think more story is very smart of Terrence Crawford not to do it. If it was just boxing, absolutely. Don't risk it, bro.
What you just heard was never really just another argument about basketball, boxing, or celebrities going at each other online. It was actually a much deeper look at what happens when fame, money, respect, personal safety, and modern sports culture all crash into one another. And seeing 3 grown men break those issues down while reacting to each other in real time made the entire discussion even more revealing. They didn't always agree, and sometimes they pushed back hard, but that was exactly what made the conversation feel authentic instead of rehearsed. Let's begin with Caitlin Clark, because that's where the temperature started rising almost immediately. At first glance, the controversy seemed pretty straightforward. Caitlin Clark failed to receive a unanimous MVP vote. One voter left her off the ballot, and that single decision suddenly carried the potential to become a much bigger problem once people discovered who made it. That is the strange reality of sports in 2026. Something that should remain a professional judgment can suddenly become a personal safety issue the moment the person behind the decision gets exposed. Mo made it clear that in his view, the voter should remain anonymous. His point wasn't necessarily that the voter made the right or wrong decision, but that people need to understand what can happen when Clark's most extreme supporters, or what he described as the trolls, decide somebody deserves to be targeted. He wasn't accusing every Caitlin Clark fan of behaving that way. Instead, he was separating passionate supporters from the people who take fandom into harassment and intimidation. And that difference is absolutely crucial, because being emotionally invested in an athlete is one thing, while making someone feel unsafe is something completely different. Think about how bizarre that reality has become. A journalist can watch an entire season, study the players, make a professional decision, and then suddenly have to worry about their own safety simply because their vote didn't satisfy the loudest people online. That is not what normal sports journalism is supposed to look like. At that point, journalism starts operating under pressure, intimidation, and fear. And once journalists begin questioning whether they can honestly express an opinion because they're afraid of what the reaction might be, the integrity of the entire voting process starts getting damaged. The unsettling part is that this issue clearly goes far beyond Caitlin Clark herself. We've seen similar situations across sports whenever a fan base becomes convinced that its favorite athlete was overlooked or disrespected. Suddenly, the conversation stops being about statistics, performance, or who actually deserved an award. Instead, people start fighting to preserve a particular narrative, sometimes at almost any cost. That's the moment passionate fandom can cross into obsession, and as this conversation makes painfully clear, obsession doesn't always remain safely behind a screen. Then the discussion became even more personal, and that shifted the energy inside the room. One of the hosts admitted that if he personally had an MVP vote, he would have selected Angel Reese. His reasoning wasn't that Clark was untalented or undeserving, but that personal loyalty, personality, and possibly some natural bias played a role in how he saw the situation, and he was willing to admit that publicly. That level of honesty is actually pretty unusual in sports media. Most people understand that taking a firm position can bring consequences, especially when the internet is already looking for somebody to attack. Backlash can arrive instantly, harassment can follow, and suddenly a person can become the villain simply because they preferred one athlete over another. But the attitude expressed here was almost the opposite of fearful. Make your choice, stand behind it. If you believe your position is legitimate, don't spend your entire life hiding from it behind an anonymous ballot. The phrase, "stand on business," therefore became more than just another catchy line. Within this conversation, it became a way of looking at accountability. If you genuinely believe something, say it. Accept whatever reaction comes with saying it, and be ready to explain your reasoning, because anonymity by itself doesn't automatically make someone brave. Then the discussion left the MVP debate behind and moved into territory that was much darker and far more serious. The hosts started addressing documented safety concerns connected to controversies involving Caitlin Clark. This part wasn't some imaginary scenario created for shock value. The host brought up the Connecticut Sun and discussed reports that players were followed after Chennedy Carter's hard foul on Clark during the previous season. And there is a huge difference between someone angrily posting about an athlete online and someone actually following that athlete in the physical world. These players were reportedly being tracked after an emotional moment during a basketball game. That should immediately make people pause. We aren't talking about somebody leaving a nasty comment under an Instagram post anymore. We are talking about parasocial behavior becoming so extreme that strangers begin believing they have some kind of right to pursue athletes in real life because of something that happened during a game. This was also where the generational divide between the men in the studio became especially fascinating. One of the older hosts, who grew up in Harlem, resisted the idea that every online death threat should automatically be viewed as identical to the kinds of threats he personally encountered growing up. He referenced D.L. Hewley's older jokes about internet bullying and the old-school attitude that sometimes the solution was simply to put the phone down, stop reading the comments, and continue living your life. But even he recognized that this mentality doesn't completely translate to the world people live in today. He even joked that saying something like that now could get you criticized almost immediately. Beneath the humor, however, there was a much more serious point being made. He grew up in an environment where a death threat could come directly from someone in your neighborhood, someone who knew your face, knew your family, knew where you lived, and might genuinely have the ability to carry out what they were saying. That produces an entirely different kind of fear than receiving a threat from an anonymous stranger typing behind a screen somewhere in what he described as somebody's mother's basement in Nebraska. He wasn't arguing that online threats should simply be ignored. He was explaining that there is a difference between the immediate physical danger he witnessed around him growing up and the newer kind of threat created by online obsession, where a person can begin as an anonymous account and eventually escalate into stalking or real-world violence, just as the Connecticut Sun example demonstrated. And what makes the exchange even more interesting is that the hosts didn't simply sit around agreeing with one another. They actually challenged each other while the conversation was unfolding. One host continued making the argument that a death threat delivered behind a keyboard doesn't necessarily carry the same immediate danger as a threat made face-to-face by someone standing in front of you with the ability to act on it. From a purely practical perspective, that argument does make some sense. Physical proximity, personal history, and someone's actual ability to cause harm can dramatically change how immediate a threat really is. But the other side of the conversation raised an equally important warning. Online intentions can eventually leave the internet, and the Connecticut Sun situation is exactly why that possibility cannot be dismissed. What starts as an angry post can potentially evolve into someone monitoring travel plans, watching hotels, or trying to determine where a team will be staying. There was never a perfectly satisfying answer to that disagreement, and honestly, that may have been what made the entire exchange feel so real. Nobody tried to pretend they had solved the problem, because the truth is that there is no simple solution to something this complicated. Instead, there is a constantly evolving threat landscape that older generations have to learn to understand, even when their instincts were shaped by a very different and, in some ways, much harsher environment. And that, more than anything, was the real message hiding underneath this entire segment. It wasn't about proving that one generation was completely right while the other generation was completely wrong. The point wasn't to simply say that danger still exists, but to recognize that the meaning of danger itself has completely changed. It used to be something local, physical, and relatively easy to identify, but now it can begin with a screen and develop into something much more serious outside of it. A private message can turn into someone showing up near a team hotel, while an innocent-looking social media interaction can suddenly escalate into an actual face-to-face confrontation. The gap between online anger and physical danger has become incredibly thin, and that uncomfortable reality was something even the hosts had to acknowledge, admitting that experiences like these have forced them to rethink just how seriously digital threats should be treated. From there, the show made a major shift, moving away from Caitlin Clark and online fan culture and toward the complicated issue of respect in sports media, with Kendrick Perkins becoming the perfect case study. At its heart, this part of the discussion focused on the difficult transition from being a professional athlete to becoming a commentator who has to analyze the same people you once competed alongside. Once you go from being someone's teammate, locker room brother, or close friend to publicly criticizing that person on national television, certain relationships are going to change. There's really no avoiding it. In many cases, it's almost guaranteed. Perkins learned that lesson fairly early in his broadcasting career, when former teammates pushed back against him for analyzing them and sometimes criticizing them while receiving a paycheck to do exactly that. But the hosts made one principle very clear. Personal friendships cannot be allowed to destroy professional honesty. You have a responsibility to perform the job you accepted. If you start protecting friendships instead of telling the truth, then you stop being a real analyst. At that point, you're basically a cheerleader wearing an analyst's title. And the way Perkins evolved after those early controversies, eventually becoming one of the most recognizable voices in sports media, shows that standing by your principles can create long-term success, even when it creates short-term problems. What made the conversation even more interesting was that the hosts weren't discussing Perkins like outsiders looking through a window. In a way, they were using his experience to describe parts of their own lives. Everyone at that table knows what it feels like to criticize somebody they genuinely know while sitting in front of a camera and realizing that person will probably see the comments almost immediately. That conflict between loyalty and honesty is something traditional sports analysts don't experience to the same degree because they didn't grow up playing alongside the athletes they now discuss publicly. These hosts did. Have real relationships with many of the people they talk about every single week. And that is precisely why the Kendrick Perkins example carried so much weight. This wasn't just another abstract conversation about journalism or media ethics. It was basically a mirror reflecting their own experiences. That naturally opened the door to an even deeper discussion about the identity of the show itself. And honestly, this may be one of the most important details for understanding everything else that unfolded during the episode. The hosts were extremely clear about what they believe their platform represents. This isn't some perfectly polished sports program where every opinion is cleaned up, approved, and packaged before the audience hears it. The whole idea is to capture the feeling of a barbershop, a neighborhood, the block, and urban America talking about sports the way people really talk when there are no cameras around. It can be personal, it can get petty, and sometimes it can be absolutely hilarious, but the one thing it tries not to be is fake. And when you choose to operate that openly, there are going to be moments when telling the truth or making a joke becomes personal enough to damage an actual relationship. One of the hosts told a story about bringing someone into a room with Rich Kleiman, the agent representing Kevin Durant, during a boardroom event several years ago. He had personally introduced his friend to Kevin Durant, but instead of understanding the moment and showing the appropriate level of respect, the friend started discussing Durant's scoring numbers in a way that quickly sounded less like analysis and more like a joke at Durant's expense, essentially clowning him to his face over not scoring enough when money was involved. The entire mood shifted almost instantly, and the consequences followed. The friend was reportedly handed cab money and sent on his way, and from that point forward, it appears he was no longer welcomed into that same circle. It may sound like a small personal anecdote, but it perfectly demonstrates why these hosts understand the risks of speaking too freely without considering the room. One reckless comment, even if it was intended as a joke, can destroy a legitimate relationship or valuable connection almost instantly. What made the story hit even harder was how specific and personal the details were. This wasn't some internet rumor about a famous athlete being embarrassed by somebody. It was a first-hand account delivered with genuine regret about watching an important opportunity disappear right in front of him. A valuable connection to one of basketball's most powerful figures was damaged because someone completely misread the situation and took a joke further than they should have. And the fact that the person was literally given cab fare and seemingly never invited back tells you more about networking than any motivational speech ever could. In elite environments, access is its own form of currency, and that access can vanish almost instantly when people decide you can't be trusted around the individuals who hold real influence. Suddenly, the same lesson from the Caitlin Clark discussion and the Perkins story appeared again, just wearing a completely different outfit. What you say, how you deliver it, and the exact moment you decide to say it can stay attached to your name long after the original situation is forgotten, whether you're an MVP voter, a television analyst, or simply a guest trying to build relationships inside a powerful room. Then the episode moved toward Terrence Crawford, and this is where the conversation transformed into an unexpectedly detailed discussion about risk management disguised as boxing talk. Crawford, widely considered one of the best fighters of his generation, was reportedly offered an enormous payday, potentially reaching hundreds of millions of dollars, for a crossover matchup with Conor McGregor that would blend elements of boxing and MMA. And according to the discussion, Crawford turned the opportunity down. The hosts were strongly in favor of that decision, and once you hear the reasoning behind it, you can understand why. Their argument came down to one basic idea. Terrence Crawford spent his entire career building a legacy around boxing, developing a reputation and skill set specifically designed for success inside a boxing ring. He is an elite pound-for-pound boxer, competing under rules that maximize the abilities he has spent decades developing, where a knockdown still gives a fighter an opportunity to recover through the referee's count, and where the primary weapons remain controlled punches rather than the much broader arsenal allowed in mixed martial arts. Walking into an MMA environment changes the equation almost completely. Suddenly, kicks, elbows, knees, takedowns, submissions, and chokeholds all become legitimate weapons, and Crawford has never spent his career developing elite defensive instincts against that entire spectrum of attacks. One host pointed to a particularly frightening possibility. Picture a seasoned MMA fighter throwing a full-power flying knee straight toward a boxer's head. A fighter trained mainly to evade punches and defend against traditional boxing combinations may have very little natural reaction to something like that. That's not merely a question of losing a crossover bout. It could result in a devastating injury, potentially changing the course of a career, all for a payday that might not even be worth the physical consequences. Then there's the financial side of the equation, and that part matters just as much. Crawford isn't some desperate fighter searching for one massive check because his career depends on it. He's an elite champion who has already accumulated serious wealth by making calculated decisions and choosing his opponents carefully. Jumping into a novelty matchup simply because the event would generate enormous attention would mean risking his health and undefeated reputation for money he doesn't necessarily have to chase. The host described Crawford's choice as refusing to become a human attraction, as if he were some expensive centerpiece being placed in the middle of another person's promotional circus, simply because his name could make the spectacle bigger. And that distinction is extremely important. There is a huge difference between being paid properly to compete at the highest level and being used as the headline attraction in a mismatched event built mainly for entertainment. By saying no, Crawford protected more than just his body, he protected the long-term value of his reputation as well. Then the discussion moved into the choke scenario, and honestly, that might have been the most unsettling moment of the entire segment. Someone inside the studio brought up footage showing Crawford being caught in a choke while doing grappling training after his fight with Errol Spence. Seeing a world-class boxer controlled by someone who actually understands grappling tells you everything you need to know about how different these disciplines really are. In an actual MMA contest, once an experienced fighter secures something like a rear naked choke or guillotine, getting out isn't as simple as deciding you're finished, because your arms could be trapped and communication becomes impossible as consciousness begins to disappear. Unlike a boxing knockdown, where the referee gives a fighter a count and an opportunity to recover, a properly secured choke can continue until the fighter taps, the official steps in, or the fighter becomes unconscious. The host stressed that this wasn't some exaggerated nightmare scenario created to make Crawford's decision look better. Combat sports have produced real situations where poorly controlled or badly officiated submissions can become extremely dangerous within seconds. So, Crawford rejecting that kind of money shouldn't automatically be interpreted as fear or unnecessary hesitation. It was a calculated understanding that dominating one combat discipline doesn't magically prepare you for another sport with different rules, weapons, dangers, and methods of ending a fight. And the James Toney example makes that point almost impossible to argue against. Toney was one of the most accomplished and self-assured boxers of his generation. His toughness, defensive instincts, and elite boxing skills made him incredibly difficult to overwhelm inside a conventional boxing ring. But when he stepped into an MMA cage against Randy Couture, those advantages disappeared almost immediately. He was taken down and finished in under a minute. That didn't happen because Toney suddenly became a less courageous fighter, and it certainly didn't erase everything he accomplished in boxing, but it demonstrated just how different the two sports really are. Boxing and MMA speak completely different languages, and being fluent in one doesn't guarantee you can survive inside the other. Crawford had that history in front of him, and after apparently experiencing that vulnerability himself while training with a legitimate grappler, walking away from the crossover opportunity suddenly looks like one of the smartest decisions he could make for both his career and his safety. And you also have to remember how much confidence James Toney carried before entering that cage. This was a fighter widely regarded as one of the most naturally talented pure boxers of his generation. He genuinely believed his hands, instincts, toughness, and boxing intelligence could translate into almost any combat situation. And to be fair, that confidence didn't come from nowhere. His resume gave him every reason to believe in himself. But the moment the fight moved away from the traditional boxing exchange and onto the ground, those advantages became almost meaningless because years of boxing training don't automatically teach you how to defend takedowns, survive grappling positions, escape submissions, or fight for control on the mat. The hosts weren't mentioning Tony's experience to embarrass him or diminish what he accomplished. They were pointing to it as a warning that Crawford could learn from. Crawford appears to have understood that lesson before making his own decision. When you spend decades becoming elite at one discipline, stepping into another sport against a specialist isn't necessarily bravery. Sometimes it's simply putting your body on the line and hoping the gamble pays off. And when you step back and examine the entire episode, one major theme connects all of these seemingly unrelated conversations. It's the importance of understanding genuine risk. Caitlin Clark's controversy involved a voter potentially dealing with real-world consequences because of a professional opinion. The Kendrick Perkins discussion centered on the possibility of losing personal relationships because you refuse to sacrifice professional honesty. The boardroom story demonstrated how one careless joke can destroy an important connection almost instantly. And the Terrence Crawford situation represented the most physical form of risk imaginable, potentially putting your body in danger by leaving your area of expertise for a massive financial reward, no matter how tempting that opportunity might appear. Every topic throughout the episode, from basketball and boxing to media and internet culture, eventually circled back to the same basic lesson: know your strengths, recognize the consequences of pushing beyond your limits, and have enough discipline to protect your health, career, and integrity, even when money, fame, or outside pressure is pushing you in the opposite direction. That is the deeper message underneath all the jokes, disagreements, laughs, and heated exchanges that filled this episode. And honestly, that may be exactly why conversations like this stay with audiences long after the original sports argument has faded away.